der gratu. Gispi ubahasa miokola. He says you spilled his drink. It's fine. It's on me. Salary Beskar.
A long time ago in a galaxy far away, there was the return of the Jedi. The Mandalorian takes place about 5 years after the evisceration of the Empire by the rebels, but before the rise of the First Order in The Force Awakens. In a way, The Mandalorian brings Star Wars back to the B-movie roots that inspired George Lucas's space opera so many years ago. We begin by leaning in hard to the Western aesthetic. Executive producer Jon Favreau says he was inspired by the original cantina in Star Wars A New Hope. And in a way, that's where we start, another backwater meeting point for a variety of species that are trying to keep to the shadows. Then, the Mandalorian struts in, giving us Boba Fett vibes, there to collect a bounty on this slippery blue customer who quickly becomes another target, frozen in carbonite. Within minutes, fans will be reveling in the familiar creatures and droids. Look, a Jawa! I think I saw this two-legged walking box thing, and even a few Kowakian monkey lizards. You're gonna have to Google that. With a budget of at least $130 million, this series spares no expense, recreating the lived-in off-world grime that fans expect. But Mandalorian shows us not all is well in the years after the rebellion's victory. At a meeting where Carl Weathers plays Grief Karga, a broker for the bounty hunters, we see he can barely afford to pay his surviving guild members. So the Mando takes the highest commission, which leads to this.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
An exciting rundown with the remnants of the Empire. This is where Mandalorian starts to show its potential, not just seeing the rusty, battle-worn stormtroopers, but the presence of Werner Herzog.
Grief Karga said you were coming.
As the client. While some other characters look like fans playing dress-up, even without a blaster, Herzog is clearly the most dangerous man in the room.
Please excuse his lack of decorum. His enthusiasm outweighs his discretion. Please lower your blaster.
He offers the Mandalorian a job, but before that happens, the Mandalorian pays a visit to a special place where others of his kind gather. At this point, if you're not deeply immersed in Star Wars lore, you're probably wondering, like I was, okay, what is a Mandalorian? Well, they were a warrior race that over time became the natural enemies of the Jedi. The distinctive helmets and combat weapons, such as grappling hooks and jetpacks, were developed to counter the effects of the Force. That helmet, which is never removed in Episode 1, makes it difficult for the main star, Pedro Pascal, to form that connection with the audience. Yeah, it's enigmatic, but with little more than that digitized voice for us to listen to.
We have you 4-1.
I like those odds.
It's hard for the audience to really feel connected to that character. It's like the Mandalorian is trying to be Batman, but at least Batman had Bruce Wayne, and occasionally we got to glimpse under the cowl. Other than a few micro-short flashbacks, we have little knowledge of the man under the armor. Of course, this is only the first episode, and I'll admit it's difficult for me to adjust my soaring Star Wars expectations to a more episodic narrative that dribbles out 40 minutes at a time. Overall, the first installment makes for a bumpy ride, tonally speaking. There are dramatic showdowns, but then more light-hearted moments like this, where a character, voiced by Nick Nolte, teaches the Mandalorian to ride a creature that looks like a giant walking piranha crossed with a tadpole. Luckily, this leads to a showdown with more scum of the galaxy and our first view of IG-11, an assassin droid trying to collect the same bounty. Now, much has been made of the fact that Taika Waititi voices that droid, but once the New Zealander is fed through the Android auto-tune, much of his distinctive personality is erased. The Mandalorian ends with a stunning reveal and a shift from that Western style to something closer to a samurai tale. The big reveal at the end suggests a possible collision course for the Mandalorian and the Jedis, and that's welcome because at the outset, what's powering this series is more nostalgia than plot or affection for those characters. Take away the setting and there's just not much of a tractor beam of a story pulling us forward. Here's hoping, as the series continues, we get more of a glimpse of the man behind the mask to see whether this Star Wars series can sustain itself. 3 stars out of 5. Eli Glassner, CBC News, Toronto.